Ex-convicts of Reddit, did you find prison rehabilitating? Why or why not? What would you change about the system if you could? Did 2 years in 2002. 1 year in a for-profit regional jail and 1 year minimum security state prison. Not rehabilitating in the sense they made any effort to rehab us, but I did go straight to stay out of there. I was 18 and breaking into businesses for the thrill. Hardcore self-destruction. Thought my life was over until I saw how worse the other convicts were. The only services jail offers are GED, church, and A/NA, so any rehabbing is done there. The discipline isn't like the military where they attempt to teach you honor or anything. It's just stand for count and clean your area once a day. I already had a GED but took it again out of boredom. Prison is a lot better. Counselors teach community college courses and you have a job. Came out with 9 credits. Probation sucks. Get downtown twice a week, don't have a shy bladder, keep a job, go to meetings even though I didn't have a drug problem. High stress and a lot of us get indefinite probation which averages 5 years. But I did good. I'm white and middle class so I was able to blend back into society easy. Waited tables and did community college. My PO let me off probation in 2 years so I could go to university and ultimately hardly missed a beat. Happily married now with 3 kids, a mortgage, and a career I don't hate. Honestly, the biggest motivation for me was watching WB shows in jail and seeing them all go to college. It was like when Mowgli saw other humans and left the jungle on his own. Needless to say, I had an unstable childhood. Edit on rehabilitation. I don't know how rehabbing as a mission statement could work in there or in the justice system. Most of the people there would flat out reject or rebel against efforts. The way I can't help but see it is that most those people, homeless people, and addicts are probably beyond recovering. The focus should be on not making more of them. Plant the seeds for the shade we'll never see and all that jazz. Catch mental health early, make societal changes to elevate black communities and give the youth a clear, promising, and attainable future. Not saying give up on anyone. Try, help, and give roots out of the lifestyle, but I really think it's going to come down making future generations better than us. Even just seeing that could be enough to change some old-timers' ways who make it through the dark days. Brother, or sis, I have never met you and prob never will, but I want you to know I'm proud of you and I hope to God you are proud of yourself for getting your shit together and moving on with life. Seriously dude, good job. It was over 20 years ago in Canadian jail and minimum security. I was in for cultivation. The only thing mandatory for me was to go to a victims program so that I became aware of the harm I was causing by selling weed. I grew 4 plants at home for me and my brother and never sold any, and was ratted out by a friend of my brother because I refused to sell him weed for 2 reasons. A, he was 15. B, I didn't sell weed. The rest of the time was gym and cards. No fear of killings or fights, it was quite chill. 2 years for 4 plants that are legal here now. I wouldn't say it was very rehabilitating, though it did make me never want to go back. The worst thing they never tell you is that the cops can do pretty much whatever they want to you. You don't really have due process once you're inside. They can send you to solitary confinement whenever they want, move you to the cell of someone who hates you and look the other way as you get beat up, and nothing will happen to them for it. Most of us were more scared of the cops than we were of each other, though of course there were some good cops. Specific punishments and such vary from prison to prison, but the worst one I always dreaded was dog breath. If someone in our cell did something the co didn't like, they'd come in, order us to sit with our backs to the wall, sometimes cuffed, and then they'd bring in their canine officer to search the cell. Except, well, she'd search the cell, but spend a long ass time giving us a sniff over too, with her mouth right on our nose, panting heavily. It was absolutely foul. One guy cursed at a co one day, and the next day our cell was searched, and he spent 15 minutes getting breathed and slobbered on by these dogs until he was gagging and retching. Complaining about the smell was a surefire way to get more of it. Nothing to do about it either. What are you going to do, complain that they searched your cell? That'd be a good way to earn another canine visit the next day. My stepdad worked as a security guard at a local max pen in the country. His fellow guards would fuck with the inmates for no reason, and treat them like dirt, just cause. He's also a hippie, and smokes weed, so he changed to Outbound to help the inmates on going back to society. He also just beat 3 cancers at once, and treats my mom good. Hard no. It was extremely overcrowded, and for a week I had to sleep in a room with a maximum occupancy of 12, with 21 other men. Most slept on a floor. I got lucky enough to sleep inches from the clogged and unusable toilet. Room was about 85 degrees. Everyone I met in there was just a terrible person, and a lot of them were happy to be there so they could tell their homies they were locked up. Edit. Another fun part of the experience that I found out towards the end of my incarcerations was that apparently the way they had us sleeping was highly illegal, and when I got out we were apparently allowed to go to this building in the city, and they were allegedly supposed to give you compensation depending on how long you stayed in the inhumane conditions. When I got to the building, I explained my situation and they told me that my experience was inhumane and asked to see my discharge papers. Funny enough, I never got discharge papers. Apparently, they knew what they were doing was illegal and they never even put me in the system so that I couldn't get paid or sue them. This was the same for the 7 or so men I got released with. Wow, that's awful. Was this in the States? Pennsylvania, private-owned prison. Was absolutely the worst experience of my life. One of my chellies was a man who was brought in on a 25-year-old warrant that was made for him missing court. 12 felony charges here, took a plea for 5 and 2 gross misdemeanors, then did over a year in numerous county jails and finished out my time in prison. I had a bad drug problem in 2004 to 2005. Getting my freedom taken away was a real wake-up call for me, especially since I ended up giving birth in prison. I was lucky enough to qualify for one of the few programs in the United States that allows female felons with shorter sentences to keep their children with them during incarceration in prison. I took charges that weren't my own because I knew that if I stayed in county jail to fight them I would have to send my baby home. I haven't been in legal trouble since. Also, I have been sober off of hard drugs since 2005 and sober off of alcohol since 2015. I completed treatment and probation and it took me over a decade to pay off over $20,000 in court fines. I learned my lesson. However, I am still judged by many for being an ex-con and former addict. I often wonder how many decades must pass before I am treated like a normal, fucking human. I did my time and followed the rules, above and beyond. The system in the US is royally fucked. We have, 2 million people currently incarcerated. There are no laws on the books that protect rehabilitated felons from discrimination. I have my voting rights back, but I still can't own a gun unless I go before a judge in every county I was convicted in and plead my case to have my felonies sealed. I'm a criminal justice student now and I'm determined to create a program for newly released felons to help them reintegrate back into society because there was nothing for me. They kicked me to the curb with a cardboard box with my name and doc hashtag on it and a bus pass. Our prison system is set up for criminals to fail, and continue to go in and out of the revolving door of corrections. Ex-felons are considered the lower class of society because we fucked up once upon a time. We're still humans. We deserve a chance, and support so that we don't fall into the trap of recidivism and prove them right, that we are still fuck-ups. Edit, not sure why I'm getting downvoted for this. Did I miss something? No. The system itself doesn't really do much at all to encourage you to be any different than you are. Some people change just from never wanting to go back. Some people don't know how to be anything else or have any desire to. I think it is a joke to refer to our prison systems as rehabilitation centers. If I could change something, I would educate all prisoners. Most people are in the life of crime because they are uneducated. If every person left prison with an associate's degree, I bet crime would drop dramatically. Everyone should be able to get an associate's degree for free. Educate everyone, the poor, the criminals, everyone. Did 8 months in county jail, first 90 days in solitary. Ended up taking a plea for a residential DOSA. Inpatient treatment, outpatient treatment, and probation for 2 years. Have learned a lot in treatment, but to be honest, nothing about being in jail was rehabilitating. The county I'm from is garbage, and 75% of the co's were power-tripping dickheads. Only 5 months left until I'm off probation though, almost there. My best friend was in prison for a few years from drug charges. You'd never know, he's a great guy, hard-working, successful businessman, owns a roofing company. He said prison was the best thing to ever happen to him. He thrives on discipline and order. And so catching a felony forced him to stop being lazy and follow his entrepreneur spirit since he couldn't find decent work with his record. The guy now has a big brand new home, and everything you could want: family, house, toys, business.